Alrighty, guys, it is Wednesday, March 23rd. It is 11:30 a.m. You already know what time it is. It's time for Figures and Funk. I'm your host, DJ Aurelius, and let's get into it. Starting off with Keep It Comin' Love by Casey and the Sunshine Band. Okay, guys, and we are back with Figures and Funk. I'm your host, DJ Aurelius. Now, before we get into the main topic of today's show, we are going to get into some new releases. So, just yesterday, I believe, Marvel's Amazing Yamaguchi, Revoltech, announced the Spider-Man reissue, which is some pretty big news because this Spider-Man came out, I want to say like 4 years ago, and it's been really hard to find. You might have to, or up until now, you probably have to just buy a knockoff to actually get this figure. And yeah, they re-released it for $85, which is significantly cheaper than what it was 4 years ago. So if you're waiting for this figure, a good Spider-Man that you can pose around and get all these dynamic poses out of, there's you go. And it comes with like a little clamp that can stick to your refrigerator, so you can really make him look like he's climbing on some metal. He has these wall crawling hands, and he has a couple of web lines, like he's shooting out webs. He has webs to grab on. Again, amazing Yamaguchi. This is a brand that really puts emphasis on articulation. And he comes out with switch out eyes, so you can have him like with his eyes squinted, with his eyes like in a confused look, or just naturally open. And that it just adds to the amount of range and dynamic poses you can get out of him. Like in the promotional images, they have him going like with his hands up, like what the heck. And they have another one where he's like mad, ready to rumble. Another where he's like confused. It's kind of funny. Along with that, they released the Spider-Gwen. And if you don't know Spider-Gwen, she's basically a storyline where Gwen Stacy becomes Spider-Man, or I guess, yeah, Spider-Man for that universe. Of course, she's known as Spider-Gwen, and Peter Parker dies, and that's like her Uncle Ben moment. And this figure is very, I mean, all the Amazing Yamaguchis are stylized. I really like the way it looks when she has the hood over her and the mask on, but they do have like an unmasked version, and I really don't like the way that head sculpt looks. It looks really goofy, and again, these are stylized figures, so it has that Japanese anime look with the eyes and the hair. Frankly, I guess because the majority of people are just used to seeing Spider-Gwen from Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, where she was like a little younger and she had the shorter hair. So seeing this version kind of throws me off a little. And again, I'm not a big fan of head sculpt, but if I were to get this figure, I'd have it with the mask on. And again, this is $85. It actually comes with more like flowing web fluid, so that's shot out. So it looks like curved and it looks like a hoop, which is very nice. Again, $85. It's an amazing Yamaguchi. Get crazy poses out of it. And yeah. Next up is the Disney Gargoyles Ultimate Brooklyn figure by Neca. And Neca's done amazing things with this brand, or I guess with Gargoyles, because we've had the Goliath, which I got, I think, a couple months back, and it was just an amazing sculpt. The details on that, the musculature, was really well defined, and the accessories it came with, like the extra hands, a book that you can open and read, the different faces where he looks very angry. And here they are again announcing Brooklyn, which is the red gargoyle that we see in that show. And if you recall, if you're a fan of that show, he in an episode he rode a motorcycle, and he thought it was really cool riding the motorcycle, and he actually comes with the shades that from that episode, so you can kind of recreate that moment. Unfortunately, the motorcycle is not coming with him, but I'm sure if you look up a third-party 12 scale motorcycle, you'll be able to recreate that. On top of that, he also comes with those that angry look, where he has white eyes and he's like screaming, roaring, I guess. And he also comes with a sword and a piece of paper that you can hold. The sword, the detail on that sword is like really cool. It kind of looks like a lamppost, but or a spear, but I'm just gonna call it a sword because it has a hilt. So that's that. That one's going for $41, which is a bit surprising, as because the gargoyle, the Goliath one, that one went for about, I believe, 30 to 35. So to see this one at 41 means that these gargoyles are selling like hotcakes, and Neca decided to raise up the price a little bit. And the thing about these figures, the gargoyle ones specifically, is that their wings are open, so they have an open wingspan, and it's kind of hard to angle them down and get them closed in, because they're always going to look like they're flying or just landing from somewhere. So that's something to look out for if you want to get into buying the gargoyles figures. You're probably going to have to like 3D print. I know there's some 3D printed or some 3D sheets, blueprints that you can go to like your local library. I know some libraries have 3D printers, and you can just print that out, probably pay a couple bucks, then pay extra more, like some more bucks to like get that painted. But it'll be set up fine. Next up is the Zack Snyder's Justice League Cyborg by Mafix. Now this Cyborg has a long time coming, because I believe those original Justice League figures, like the other characters such as Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman, were released a while back. So this Cyborg, for it to just drop off out of nowhere, is a bit strange, but it's Mafix, so you know you're going to get some decent quality out of it. It looks very clean, a bit too shiny for my taste. I mean, I know Cyborg in the movie was more gray than he was like silver, and this figure is more silver. So if you remember from that movie, he had like a darker tone. This one's like way brighter. So that's something to factor in. Accessories, he comes with a lot. He comes with 3 head sculpts. So it's going to be one where it's like all closed and he has that one glowing eye, the red eye. And he has one natural, like head sculpt. And one where he has his mouth open, like he's gritting his teeth. Very cool. He has 2 extra arms that can go, so you can have him like with 4 arms, and those arms do look articulated, so you can like pose them around and stuff. And then he has a shield. It doesn't look like the biggest shield. I believe it's just for like his back. They don't really show it with it displayed on the promotional images, but it, from what I can tell, it just like you just slap it on the back and it'll shield his shoulder. And he has 2 blaster arms, so he comes with the 2 regular arms, you know, with hands and such. And then he has the blaster arms, which, you know, his hand or his arm opens up from his hand and has this like cool blast effect that can be done. And he has a spear arm. So with that spear arm, he can make it look like he's about to stab someone. Very cool. I don't believe he comes with extra hands, which is a bit odd because Mafix always includes a array of hands, especially for Spider-Man figures. But I guess with this Cyborg, you know, the main focus is putting on those blaster hands or that spear hand and having that replace what would normally be like open palmed hands and fisted hands. And he does come with fisted hands and one open palmed hand. However, the main focus is, again, to get those blaster and spear hands on his arm. Sorry if that was a little bit redundant. But those are some of the new releases, guys. We're going to go back to some music, starting off with I'm Coming Out by Diana Ross. And when we come back, we're going to get into the main topic, which will be figures versus statues. Okay, we are back, guys, with our topic of the day, figures versus statues. Now, what's a statue? A statue is basically a sculpture, right? So it's a character, or it could be several characters, just already pre-posed and sculpted in by an artist, right? Painted and shipped out to the consumer. So think, because there's different levels of sculptures, like quality, same as action figures. And well, this is figures in funk, not figures in statues. I mean, not statues in funk, right? So I'm not big on statues, but I will talk about them. And starting off with like smaller, I guess lower quality statues, you could say Funko Pops, right? Everybody, at least everybody I know, has at least one Funko Pop, and frankly, I don't really see the appeal. I kind of don't like things, but I mean, lots of people do, and that's okay. And you also have other little statues that you might see like at Walmart or at your local comic book shop. They're like $20 to $25. It's just a character posed up, right? One singular pose. That's all you get. That's all you pay for. And you just prop it up on your shelf and just look at it every once in a while. So that's a statue. Now, when you compare it to action figures, okay, let's talk about poses. With action figures, you can get many poses. You don't just get the one, right? With the statues, let's say Captain America, right? He throws his shield. There's probably like a little wind effect, right, from his hand to his shield, and then he's like hunched over. He just gave it a good swing, right? The shield's flying. That's an example of what a statue would be, right? Maybe he's like stepping on Red Skull or something, which is like his main enemy. And then you can have an action figure of Captain America, right? Same pose, you can get that same effect because there's a figure out there. It's like roughly $25 that you can recreate that pose. Not only that, you can change out his hands and have him saluting. You can have him sitting down. You can do what you like with him, right? So for poses, I would say action figures takes it. However, there are some poses with statues that you just can't really replicate with figures. Take for instance like hunched over poses. Okay, let's take the Hulk. Right? So the Hulk, he's always hunched over, he's always like ready to rumble, ready to smash. Okay, and you see like the lines on his clothes like creasing up, right? You see his like abdomen like kind of get crunched down as normal skin would do, right? And then you look at action figures and it's like, I mean, yeah, it crouches down, but you don't really get those finer details that give a good crunch. And especially with like most of the Hulk figures out there, they don't really crunch that much. Not as well as you would like your Hulk to be able to crouch down and just like look like he's about to leap or something. You don't get that small little touch of details that would really give the illusion that he's actually crunching. So that's poses out of the way. Let's go with Sculpt. Now, Sculpt is, again, just getting all those fine details in there. Statues take it. Like, they take it. No doubt about it. Okay, figures, action figures, they do have some Sculpt. And some of it's really clean. It's really nice. It's good for, like, a 6-inch, 7-inch figure that you can just pose around and probably, like, have in hand, right? But the thing with that is that if the Sculpt is like small little print details, over time, if you're handling it too much, it might just like slip off, or not slip off, I'm sorry, but like just fade because the oil in our fingers, like slowly just chipping away. It's like it's like those statues you see in like New York. I mean, I'm not sure if many of you have been to New York, but I've heard, I mean, I haven't either. But I know that there's a statue there that many people touch, right? And over time, like over the years, as many people have touched that statue, it's just gotten very flat and the details are lost. It's kind of the same thing with action figures, right? Because it's just a little plastic. And, the grease and oil on our fingers, the more we mess with it, the more we're rough with it, posing it and playing with it and such, those details tend to fade, go away. Statues, on the other hand, they're bigger, There's way more details. I mean, you're not going to go and stick your hand and mess with the statue, right? You're just going to prop it up on your shelf. And you're just going to look at it, not touch it that much, maybe to like move it to another spot, right? But you're not going to mess around with it too much. Now, then we go into price. This is where the line is divided heavily, okay? Because we have action figures that start up around, well, depending on if you want like something more kiddish or something more adult. Adult figures start at like $20 to $25. As for statues, right out the gate, you're looking like at $50 for like a brand new one. And if it's overseas, it's way more than that. So again, there are some for $25, but they're on the smaller scale. And at that point, you might as well just buy an action figure of that character that you're going to buy, because you just have more accessories and more things to do with it. However, the thing to factor in is backgrounds. Now, with the backgrounds, that's kind of what I think adds to the price of statues. On top of that, because the company that's making it has to, get an artist to get all those details and paint in. But higher quality statues can run, like, you're in the hundreds at that point, possibly even the thousands. And we're going to take a look at some of them in quite a bit. Just going to take another music break, starting off with Give Me the Night by George Benson. Okay, guys, we are back. That was You Dropped a Bomb on Me by the Gap Band. So, prices for statues. Yeah, just going on Big Bad Toy Store, which is one of the best places to buy action figures. There is a statue of Menito Namikaze from Naruto. And he is actually Naruto's dad, right? And he's known as the Yellow Flash of the Leaf. He was the leader of the village. And he has this cool statue that's up for sale right now. It's really, really cool, actually. The details on it make it look like kind of realistic for, what's like a cartoon, right? In our world. And he has like this ball of energy, which is a Rasengan, which is basically like, charged up energy in the palm of your hand, and you just charge at someone and like let it explode within them. And he has that loaded up in his left hand, and he has his like right arm sticking out, and he's holding on his finger a shuriken with a seal on it. Now, for those of you who don't know, that means it's because he's about to use his flying Raijin jutsu, which lets him teleport to places that he's already been before, and he leaves like little seals that will let him be there. And that's what it looks like he's about to do, just teleport and, hit someone with the Rasengan. And he's like, there's also like this chakra that's like, or like kind of lifting up from the ground and like surrounding him and going into the Rasengan. And on top of that, he's like on top of some rocks, and there's a tree behind him. Really good quality on the tree. There's some leaves on that. And there's a shuriken already stuck on that tree, which means he just left a seal. And below the rocks, he's on top of a base, which has like the nine-tailed seal that he put on his son Naruto way back in the beginning of the series. It's like, it has like a golden accent, and there's some black in there. Really, really detailed, really beautiful, really well painted, at least from these promo images, right? And it stands 25.6 inches tall. That is 65.02 centimeters for you people who use centimeters. All right, he's made from polystone and resin and PVC. He's highly detailed. And they're only making 800 of these guys. And he's going for $1,000. Yeah, $1,000 for a statue. Which is insane. Really, it is insane. But for something as tall as this and as detailed as this, like, you kind of have to think. And again, only 800 in the world that are going to be made. It's, it's up to you whether you think that's worth the money. Me personally, I wouldn't, right? And I'm not too sure how many people out there have that type of expendable income, disposable income. So that's kind of scary. But if you're a big fan of the character and you want something really detailed, maybe like a big final piece that would go right in the center of your shelf, maybe with your Naruto collection, I think that would work. Next up, we have Queen Studios Iron Man Mark III, the life-size bust. So this is life-size. It's a bust, which is basically from the chest, shoulders, and head, and it looks insanely detailed. Funny enough, this one's only $600, and there's only 4 left right now on the Queen Studios website. However, that $600 is due now, and it's like $765 later, plus shipping. So I guess the full payment is actually $1,300. So again, life size, right? It's not just a tiny little 6-inch figure. It's a life size Iron Man bust. Now that would go amazing on the shelf or on the side of your room, your man cave, wherever you want to put it, right? But then the question is, why? Why would you want a life-size bust of Iron Man? Well, simply just to say you have it, I suppose. I mean, that's the thing with statues. Like, I personally don't really understand the appeal. I can see with some, like that Menito one, but the life-size bust just seems like it's taking it a bit too far. And especially when you get to like some of the other busts that Queen Studios have made, like the Wonder Woman and such, where you actually have to brush the hair, right? It's a little bit creepy. And since like, or even just people in general that they make, like not in a suit, the eyes, they're lifelike, and they use like this shiny little pearl that just, it's kind of creepy looking, in my opinion. And then looking at another bust, this is a person bust of the Joker from the Dark Knight film. Right, so it's Heath Ledger's Joker. It is his bust, which means that, again, the chest, shoulder, and head. And he's wearing his classic little suit. He has some blood splatter on there. He has some paint on the left side that says, I'm not too sure what that says, but it has a word. And he has a ha 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 on his like lower chest. And the head, the face looks amazing. Again, these are like lifelike, way more than Hot Toys, which is what we talked about for action figures that are lifelike. Those are 1/6 scale. These are lifelike. They're 1-to-1. Okay, so this is like actually proportionate to what Heath Ledger is or was. I mean, rest in peace. And it's crazy, the details. You can see the pores on him. You can see that where the makeup is put over him, where it's faded out. You can see his smile, his classic Joker smile, right? The red on his lips, the red on the side of his mouth. It's insane. It doesn't even look like you're looking at a statue. It looks like you're looking at a person. Which again is just, it's crazy. And this will run you about, actually I'm not too sure. Oh, I think around $400, which is pretty good considering that the other one, the Iron Man one, is like $1,300. This is Prime 1, and it's a limited edition, as all big statues like this are, and there's only going to be 3,800 made. So get yours while supplies last. Next, we're looking at Sideshow, and this is more of what a typical statue would be, right? So it's General Obi-Wan Kenobi from Star Wars. It's made by the company Mythos, sold by the company Sideshow, and it's basically just him standing there, right? So you got Obi-Wan Kenobi standing. He's like on top of a droid that's on fire. His cape is like flowing, and he has his lightsaber drawn. So he just looks epic. He comes with like this is the thing with the sculptures. Sometimes you can change out a piece, oftentimes no. This one you can, so you can have this regular Obi-Wan head sculpt, and you can put like a trooper helmet on, so it looks like he's disguising himself. And this one's actually cheaper than the others. It's $590, right? So it's a full body sculpture. stands around 17.17 inches tall. So that's way bigger than your average action figure. Again, from Sideshow, we have Peacemaker. And this is a 1/3 scale statue. And it's him from Suicide Squad where he's just pointing out, right? John Cena, the face is there, the body, the material of the clothing, the musculature, it's all there, it's all perfect, it's all lifelike. And this is 1/3 scale, so it's going to be around 3 feet tall, approximately, and it's going for $1,500. Now, could you recreate the same thing with an action figure that's maybe a little bit smaller, but if you want to go like 1/6 scale, that would probably cost you around like $300. I think Hot Toys has theirs for that. Smaller, right? You can get the pointing pose, and you can also get other poses. Now, is that worth? It's just up to you guys. Do you want something smaller where you can get more poses, or do you want something big and that'll stand out, and you'll get that one epic pose that is just the center of your room or display? It all depends. And speaking of like being the center of your display, we gotta talk about space, right? So with statues, they're huge. Okay, you just heard me say they're life size, right? They can be 1/3 scale, 3 feet tall. They're gonna take up a lot of room. So you're gonna need like a big room to put all these puppies in. Whereas your figures, I mean, one shelf could support at least 10 or 15, depending on how you pose them and how spaced out you make them. So that's another thing to consider. On top of that, we got accessories, which we'll get into after another music break. Gonna hit you with A Night to Remember by Shalimar. Okay, guys, so accessories. Now, as I stated before, with that Obi-Wan Kenobi, you can change out the head, right? And other statues, you can do the same thing. Maybe change out the way the arm is posed, the hand, right? With the action figures, you can change out a lot more. So you can change out different hands, you can change out different heads, you can change out, accessories, right? You can add, like, say, Batman, for example. You can give him his little batarang, you can give him a grappling gun. You can have it shooting, not shooting. There's more variety there. And that goes along with the poses. So that's something else you need to factor in when you want to buy a character. Top of that, you have to consider releases. So what I mean by that is, action figures, they announce it'll be out within 6 months to a year, right? Just depends. As for statues, it's longer. It could be a year to 2. It just depends. And, for something as expensive as that, you want it now, right? I mean, same thing with action figures, but something that costs that much, of course, you're going to want it as soon as you can. And not only that, but you also have to deal with, since these things are so big and so fragile, because they're actually statues, and, considering the pose, there's some parts that might be more fragile than others, than the actual base. So that's prone to breaking as it ships. With action figures, they already come in the box, tightly sealed. They're just standing there, and you get it, hardly any problems. Of course, you might have some QC issues, which is a whole other thing that we'll get into maybe some other week. But again, it's just up to you. It's honestly really hard to give a definitive answer of which is better, which is the more preferred way to collect, right? What else is there to say? Well, I guess honestly, overall, it just depends on what you want to do with these characters. Do you just want it posed once and have it there? Do you want to play with it? Do you want it to interact with other characters that you already have? That would go well. That would be better with the action figures. Statues, not so much. But I think a big factor for this, at least for me, is photography, right? So you want to share what you have. You want to say, hey, look, I bought this. It's pretty cool. Check it out. You might post it on your Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, whatever social media you use, right? Now, statues, you'll take a couple good pictures from different angles, and that's it. right? Maybe you'll have a black background or a white background. That's pretty much all that you're gonna get from that. Action figures, on the other hand, that's where you can get more crazy with it. Okay, you can pose them up, you can edit them, and you can create really cool scenes and really cool pictures. Change the background, make him right, make you know Iron Man in space or something, Green Lantern in space flying around. Okay, you can have him using his ring effect. You can have Spider-Man swinging through the cities of New York, even though he's just there in a little corner in your room, right, with a green screen backdrop. That's where I feel like action figures takes a slight edge in that you can create more dynamic and interactive environments with it. Of course, it's not real, but as an image, I think that works out better. Well, unfortunately, guys, that's all the time we have for today. Um, tune in next week, same time, Wednesday, 11:30. Make sure you check out upcoming shows such as the Mud Club and Comic Cosmos. I'm not too sure what the name is, but they're pretty good shows. I listen to them. You should too. And yeah, guys, we'll see you back next week. This is Figures and Funk with your host, DJ Aurelius, only on Vaquero Radio, the Valley Student Station.